Jumpstart civilization.
Visited by divine teachers known as the Anunnaki.
In the Sumerian tradition, one of the gods, Enlil, teaches human beings about agriculture, teaches human beings how to plant.
For the love of T-Boy! For the love of fucking 操你妈的 T-Boy!
Plow into the ground and plant seeds. It's the gods who show human beings how to use technology, how to create this technology.
This idea that there were teacher gods a long time ago, the ancient astronaut theory suggests that our ancestors were all visited by the same teachers, the same extraterrestrials. Could Quetzalcoatl represent an extraterrestrial visitor who helped to establish civilization in Mesoamerica? According to ancient astronaut theorists, support for this notion can be found not only in the Aztec codices, but also by examining a number of curious depictions of the feathered serpent god. La Venta, Mexico, 1955. American archaeologists Philip Drucker and Robert Heiser begin an excavation of an Olmec pyramid mound. North of the main pyramid, they unearth a mysterious carved stela that they date to around 1200 BC. Now known as Monument 19, it is believed by many to be the oldest depiction of Quetzalcoatl ever discovered.
La Venta Monument 19 is such an interesting and evocative piece of art that it's gotten a ton of names. One of them is the Rocket Man.
It depicts this weird scenery of some guy enclosed inside a snake, and it's as if he's sitting on some sort of a seat. The guy's, wearing some sort of a suit with a helmet, and he is, just sitting inside this enclosure. In my opinion, it's an example of misunderstood technology. Monument 19 is a representation of Quetzalcoatl, the teacher god, inside of a flying craft. Does Monument 19's unique depiction of Quetzalcoatl, not as a feathered serpent, but as a human-like figure, sitting within the body of a serpent, provide further evidence that he was a real-life visitor from another world? Curiously, the Olmecs weren't the only people to depict Quetzalcoatl in human form. There are also Maya and Aztec depictions of Quetzalcoatl that show a human face seeming to emerge from the mouth of a serpent. Now, according to Central American tradition, Quetzalcoatl is supposed to have descended from a star. He is represented as the feathered serpent, but also he is represented in the human form with the helmet. There are many of these representations of Quetzalcoatl. Quetzalcoatl was definitely an extraterrestrial. As far as ancient astronaut theorists are concerned, Quetzalcoatl was just one of many otherworldly visitors encountered by the Aztecs. And while he is credited as a key figure in the establishment of the civilization, there was another sky god that would come to define the Aztec society. One
那个
demanded
鸡掰，
human
我他妈的
sacrifice.
晒到脑，晒到那个脑鸡掰，晒喷出来是不是？
Tula, Mexico. Here, 50 miles north of the Aztec capital of Tenochtitlan, lie the ruins of another incredible Mesoamerican city. It was home to the Toltecs, who flourished from roughly 950 to 1150 AD. The site is full of monumental stone structures and beautiful carvings. But the people who built it left behind no written record of who they were. The little that historians have been able to piece together about the Toltecs comes from the Aztecs, who claimed to be their descendants and chronicled their oral history.
The Aztec always wanted to demonstrate their heritage. And the Aztecs would claim descent from Toltec peoples.
The Toltecs are said to be the master artists of all time. The most eloquent speakers, the best musicians, the best politicians. To be civilized was to be Toltec. But most of these are stories that the Aztecs told us.
Among the most intriguing artifacts left by the Toltec are several giant monolithic statues standing on top of a pyramid. According to ancient astronaut theists, these figures represent beings from a technologically advanced society. In Tula, Mexico, there is a site that's famous for these gigantic colossal statues known as the Atlantean columns. And in my opinion, it's one of the best representations of ancient astronauts because what you're looking at are essentially people that are dressed in some sort of pressurized suit. Their hands are on the side, and they're moving some sort of weaponry. It's unlike anything that was ever found in that region. Is it possible that the enormous statues at Tula depict otherworldly visitors? Ancient astronaut theorists say yes, and point to Aztec writings that claim the Toltec were guided by the god Quetzalcoatl. According to the Aztec codices, Quetzalcoatl taught them not only the skills needed to develop their civilization, but also to live in peace among one another. Quetzalcoatl is known as a very benevolent teacher god who taught peace and love, and he forbade human sacrifice, which was very common in Central America for thousands of years. But the Aztecs described that within their vast pantheon of gods, there were opposing agendas. And the brother of Quetzalcoatl, named Tezcatlipoca, had very different intentions for humanity. Tezcatlipoca is more of a sorcerer, understanding the dark wisdom, a god of light, demanding blood be spilled.
Tezcatlipoca validated powers through strength and violence. Tezcatlipoca was an agent of chaos.
For the Aztecs and their Toltec ancestors, Tezcatlipoca offered strength and conquest, and he wished to be honored through human sacrifice. But Quetzalcoatl stood in his way.
Tezcatlipoca demanded human sacrifice, and he schemed to have Quetzalcoatl evicted, if you will, from the Toltec and Aztec tradition.
The Aztecs talk about a final battle in which the forces of Tezcatlipoca and those of Quetzalcoatl meet, and Quetzalcoatl is defeated and repelled.
According to Aztec codices, coinciding with this battle between the gods was an earthly conflict between those who worship Quetzalcoatl and those devoted to Tezcatlipoca. When the followers of Tezcatlipoca emerged victorious, it sealed the Aztec state to become a warring people who conquered their neighbors and sacrificed humans to the gods. Looking at this through the lens of the ancient astronaut theory, I wonder if this war between Quetzalcoatl and Tezcatlipoca is something happening above the veil. That in space, there's something going on with two races fighting over the destinies of mankind. Is it possible that a certain group of extraterrestrials influenced the Aztec people to become more warlike and even engage in human sacrifice? Ancient astronaut theorists, what makes the story of Quetzalcoatl and Tezcatlipoca even more intriguing is that the notion of gods warring over humanity can be found in numerous ancient cultures throughout the world. Throughout human history, we have this continuous interplay between the dark gods and the light gods, very similar to what we see among the Toltecs and the Aztecs. For example, in ancient Sumeria, you have the conflict between two brothers, Enki and Enlil. You find the same story played out in the Greek tradition between Prometheus and Zeus. This idea that they were good gods versus bad gods could be a distant memory of some sort of extraterrestrial war that happened here on Earth. According to the codices, when Tezcatlipoca replaced Quetzalcoatl as the primary deity, human sacrifice began to take place on a scale never seen before. And the Aztecs not only sacrificed their enemies, but even their own people. Those who witnessed talk of tens of thousands of people being dispatched in a single ritual event. And they did it because the gods demanded it. Is it possible that this bloody ritual was inspired by otherworldly visitors who had some nefarious agenda for humanity? Ancient astronaut theorists suggest further evidence of an extraterrestrial influence in Aztec culture can be found by examining the arrival of the Spanish conquistadors and the downfall of the Aztec Empire. The Aztec capital of Tenochtitlan, 1509. Over the course of 5 nights, King Montezuma II witnesses a rare celestial event, which he interprets as a sign from the gods.
Montezuma II is sitting on the throne when there's a bad omen of a comet that comes through the sky. Comets were unexplained and bad juju. In this particular case, though, Montezuma goes to the king of Texcoco, who is a philosopher king. And he asks him, what does this mean? And he says, well, all of our omens say that you will be sitting on the throne at the end of the Aztec Empire.
Montezuma and his wise men read this as a sign that now is the time for the return of Quetzalcoatl. According to the Aztec codices, when Quetzalcoatl was driven from the earth by his more violent brother Tezcatlipoca, he vowed he would one day be back. And the possibility of his return weighed heavily on King Montezuma. One might think they would be welcoming the appearance of Quetzalcoatl, but not Montezuma. He's very concerned that they've re-implemented human sacrifice, much to the chagrin of Quetzalcoatl, and they're terrified. that this would be Judgment Day for them. In November 1519, 10 years after the appearance of the comet, 500 Spanish conquistadors arrived at Tenochtitlan, led by Hernan Cortez. Armed with swords, lances, shields, and crossbows, they are prepared to be met with hostility. But as they cross the causeway into the capital, they are shocked to be greeted warmly by a friendly king. Cortez's physical appearance precisely matches the description of the god Quetzalcoatl. He's a powerful type of a figure. And Montezuma's looking at him thinking, here's this representative of this god, if not the god himself appearing before him. When the Spanish conquistadors arrived, the local population of present-day Mexico, they never moved a finger to protect themselves.
Cortez actually captured Montezuma himself right in the middle of his own city. And from there, he took control of the entire city.
Montezuma's belief that Cortez was Quetzalcoatl had devastating consequences. After Cortez seized control of Tenochtitlan, the Aztec people violently rebelled against the Spanish, and Stone King Montezuma to death. Unrest quickly escalated to all-out war. The Aztec Empire was enormously powerful. When Cortez comes along with his 500 men, Cortez went to all the outlying tribes and made alliances with them and made a pact that they would end human sacrifice if they assisted Cortez overthrowing the Aztecs. And this is exactly what happened.
Less than 1,000 Spaniards could have been easily dispatched. But the Spanish met the Tlaxcalans, and the Tlaxcalans fielded 50,000 people against the Aztecs.
The indigenous allies of the Spaniards knew how to maneuver in Lake Texcoco and find where the Aztec and Tlatelolcan warriors would be located. That was a war that involved over 100,000 indigenous warriors fighting on the side of the Spanish. So in essence, this was a Spanish indigenous war versus the Aztecs.
By 1521, just 2 years after the Spanish arrived in Tenochtitlan, the Aztec Empire had fallen. The prophecy that Montezuma II would be the last Aztec king had come to pass. But is it possible that Quetzalcoatl was a real extraterrestrial entity who had a hand in the downfall of the Aztecs in order to put an end to human sacrifice? You have to wonder if there was an extraterrestrial agenda behind all this, in that Quetzalcoatl himself was perhaps an extraterrestrial who was benevolent and here to bring mankind out of these dark ages of human sacrifice and brutality. After the fall of the Aztec Empire, the Spanish demolished the city of Tenochtitlan, drained Lake Texcoco, and began to build modern Mexico City in its place.
The fall of the Aztec Empire transformed the Western Hemisphere. There are new rulers heading what once was the Aztec Empire. There's a whole new civilization in the Americas.
Although the Aztec Empire came to an end more than 500 years ago, their descendants are still around today. And some of them claim there is physical evidence that the story of the Aztecs' otherworldly past is true. Located in the California desert, just west of the Arizona border, an estimated 300 gigantic figures can be seen etched in the arid ground. Known as the Black Intaglios, these ancient geoglyphs depict animals, spirals, and gigantic humanoid figures. They are protected by descendants of the Aztecs, known as the Chemehuevi. knew the word creator. If I may know running, the eye that always seems very good. The geoglyphs relate to Sakor and to Simi. The extraterrestrial creates traveling the cosmos.
Our ancestors wanted to convey to us that they experienced an ancient visitation by extraterrestrials because Quetzalcoatl and all these ancient gods promised that they would return one day. Chemehuevi historian Patricia Robles says that what makes these geoglyphs of even greater importance is their age.
They were known to indigenous people for thousands of years through our native cultural traditions. They are more than 10,000 years old. The glyphs were made by the first humans that came to this earth. Ancient civilizations are coming to surface because the time has come to tell the truth about human origin. We are star people. We came from the stars.
Is it possible that the Blythe intaglios include depictions of Aztec gods that were created more than 10,000 years ago? And if so, might this suggest that the Aztec origin story that involves gods descending on Mesoamerica in the distant past, giving rise to civilizations like the Olmecs, Mixtecs, Toltecs, and others, is true?
For centuries, the Americas were this unknown land, and we are finding out all kinds of new things. We're pushing back the dates of civilization, and with the Aztecs, the gods are credited with starting their civilization, and they believe that they traveled to Earth from the stars. Now, what if there is something to that? In the story of the Aztecs is a drama that has played out multiple times in human history between what appeared to be almost factions of different extraterrestrial species. And in the Aztec story, we have Quetzalcoatl. The same entity appears over and again in numerous cultures. North America is one of the few places where we still have living mythologies, where we can ask living people about their history. And these cultures did speak of physical beings descending from the stars and imparting knowledge. Could it be that the incredible ruins, writings, and oral history of the Aztecs tells a story of otherworldly activity in the distant past? Were the hundreds of gods recorded in the Aztec codices in fact extraterrestrial?